Hello, friends and family, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to move forward in our discussion about depression, and we're going to start with this question. Do you have depression? I know. You might not have any idea of what's going on for you, but I'm wondering, do you have an idea if you have previously suffered with depression, or are you currently going through it right now? That is what we're going to talk about today. So if you are ready to explore this conversation, let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing to Live Now. My name is Taneshia, and today we're going to be talking about, do we have depression? Are we showing signs of depression in our personal lives and we do not know it? That is what we're going to be talking about today. So what we've learned so far is a very brief overview of what depression is. But can I tell you a secret, friends and family? Depression in and of itself is not in a vacuum. Yep, friends. Did you hear that? Depression is not in a vacuum. Taneshia, what you mean? Here's what I'm saying. Depression is so dynamic as a disorder, as a challenge that people face, that it is difficult to properly go through all of the pieces of what makes depression. And what's even more interesting about depression is the fact that its etiology, its origin, what makes it be what it is, its theoretical underpinnings are not just based in the stress of life that we each experience. Did you know that individuals have genetic predisposition or can have a genetic predisposition to depression? Can I say that again for our friends in the back? Yeah, friends, you heard me correctly. Depression's origin, its theoretical underpinnings, let us know that it can actually be a genetic predisposition that we may have towards depressive moods. I know, friends. I know. And you might be saying, Taneshia, you always tell us that if we can change our mind, we can change our life. But what do we do when there's a genetic predisposition? I'm glad you asked. And I'm going to tell you. When you think about genetic predispositioning, think about it in this way. Conceptualize what it's like to be genetically predisposed to high blood pressure or diabetes. Knowing that you have a higher likelihood to experience something does not necessarily mean that that disorder, that challenge, that thing that you have a predisposition to will actually be your experience. But it lets you know that there is a vulnerability in your family line that could cause you to cause that thing to visit you at another time in your life when you are not expecting it. And so when you know what's going on in your family tree, in your world, in your life, for those who you know and are blood related to, it's critically important for you to be able to then put the necessary supports in your life in place. And do the maintenance necessary so that when distress or things happen in your life that could cause this thing you're predisposed to be able to be activated, it will not have as much of an effect, or it may not have an effect at all. Yep. So while, let's be honest, friends and family, we cannot control everything that we are going to experience. We cannot prepare for everything. The purpose of this information that I'm sharing is to bring awareness to you. See, much of the work that I do as a training psychologist and as a certified school psychologist is within the academic arena and or in a practice space where I am seeing patients or working with families who have different needs. But a lot of this information is shared in university settings, right? Or directly with individuals that I and other professionals like me are in contact with. Rarely do we get an opportunity to share this information in a massed way with people who really need it on a day-to-day basis. So I'm here to bring that to you, so that you can maybe do some internal checks and some evaluations of your life, so that if you know people who are struggling or you're seeing symptomologies that we discuss, you can help them. So back to our discussion here of the theoretical underpinnings of depression in and of itself. There are several factors. As I stated, there are genetic predispositions towards it. There are neurological dispositions, meaning the way our brain works. There are even hormonal dispositions that we could have that could make us a little bit more sensitive to depression than other people. It's also important to know that in addition to these things, there is also environmental and personal vulnerabilities. You like, Taneshia, what that mean? I'm gonna tell you. So when I'm talking about environmental vulnerabilities, I'm talking about, do you have access to clean drinking water? Do you have access to stable housing? Do you have access to food consistently? Do you have access to the best materials possible for you to be successful in the country, in the state, in the city that you live in? Have you been involved in a natural disaster recently that makes those things I just named difficult for you to access? If that is the case, depression is easier to affect someone who is vulnerable because of environmental issues. Why? Because there are things out of their control. When we talk about personal vulnerabilities, let's talk about the fact that that could be sickness and disease that is already in a person's body. Yeah, that makes you vulnerable to a lot of different mental health challenges, including depression, for a lot of reasons. One, because there could be frustration because of the journey that you're going through with sickness and disease that makes you overwhelmed. You could take medications that can trigger chemicals in your brain that bring on depression. Yes, my friend and my family. You could have health complications that cause your hormones to be overwhelmed and depression to come forth. You see what I mean when I said that depression is not in a vacuum? That's what I mean. It's vast. It's broad. It's very big. This video is not designed to diagnose it, but to give you general symptomology around it for you to do the research and the searching for yourself to get the help you need. And for me to let you know that you're not alone. You're not the only one who might be going through it, or your family members or people that you've seen. This whole space is community, right? So here's something else you need to know about depression that we have not discussed so far. And that is the fact that it can be co-occurring. Depression, my friends and family, if I could put it in my own, little humorous way. Honey, depression like friends, okay? Yes, my brother and my sister, depression likes friends. Oh yes, it likes to hang out with anxiety. Oh my goodness. It likes to hang out with substance abuse. It likes to hang out with personality challenges and disorders. And like I said to you earlier, it likes to hang out with medical illness. What are you saying, Taneshia? Friend, what I'm saying to you is that it is very common for depression to live, in this world concurrently with other things. So you could potentially be struggling with multiple things at once and think it's one thing and have no idea that the etiology of both of them are separate, but you're having them at the same time. And because there's overlap in symptomology, you think it's one thing, but it's multiple things. So you might be asking, well, why do I even need to know if they're separate, if the symptomologies overlap? The reason why you need to know that how they're separate is because that really informs your professionals on how to help you. Yep. Because the way that I might assist someone who has anxiety may be totally different than the way that I might assist someone with depression. And sometimes in a therapeutic environment, I could work with someone who has both of them, but I need to get rid of one of them, help them manage one before we can work on the other. You see the importance of them both? Yes, my friends and family. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you can have an awareness of the fact that depression is bigger than what we have all been trained to see it as. Here's something else you need to know about depression. And I touched on it in our last conversation. Depression looks differently based on the culture you come from. I know, my friends. I know. One cultural expression of depression could be some of the symptomologies that I shared with you the other day. And added to that, we might look at that a person crying hysterically over and over again, and we don't know why. And neither do they. Yep. Another display of depression could be a few of the symptoms that I spoke about to you the other day. And added to that, excessive anger and violence. What you mean, Taneshia? What I'm saying is sometimes what you're looking at in people's behavior is not what you think it is, my friends and my family, even in your own life. Isn't that something? I know. Yep. Do you know how many times I have seen men in particular show depression looking like anger and looking like violence? Explosiveness. It's been often. And what has been interesting about that is that if you talk to them and really get down to the core of what's happening for them, they might be scared. And the core of why they are violent is because they feel hopeless. They don't know what else to do. So they're acting out in this way. And then what's crazy is, what I've noticed is the depression is typically the most severe for those that are the most violent. Because now you're getting into this major depressive state that we sort of touched on the other day, where they feel hopeless, they don't have pleasure in their life, and they don't feel like their life is worth living anymore. And they're constantly thinking about death. So if your mind is not on living, why would you then protect your life or the lives of other people? My friends and my friends, my family, my brothers and my sisters. Isn't that something? So think about family members that you've had. Think about them if you know individuals who have been in and out of county jail or gone to prison, and you're thinking about some of the things that they did, whether it could have been vandalism or it could have been assault charges and different things like that, or things that you see on the news. Maybe you've never experienced it in your family before. It's so easy for us to be judgmental and prescriptive about why people do what they do, but the reality is you do not know what's going on for them that is causing them to act in that way. Does it excuse inappropriate behavior that causes the lives of other people to be threatened? No, but it helps us to understand so that we can live our life in love and have compassion. And honey, safe as well, okay? You see somebody not fully in themselves, baby, I recommend you praying in your heart and getting out their way, because you don't know at what level they're at. That explosiveness is not just anger. Many times it is so many things that are piled together, and one of them very commonly is depression. Yep. Oh yes. So now here's the question of the day I asked you earlier. Do you have depression? Or do you think that you've ever had depression? How'd you respond to that? Can I help you? Can I help you? The reality is most of us have experienced some level of short-term depression for some reason. Can I say that again for the people on the side? Friends on the side, did you hear that? I'm going to say it again. Okay. Some of us have dealt with depression in some space in our life for some reason. And many of the reasons why we might have gone through it, or the initial onset of us observing that something was wrong with us, was because of some personal vulnerability. I don't know if I ever got back to that, but if I'm repeating myself, just bear with me or skip forward. But I want to make sure I touch on the personal vulnerability part a little bit more. When we're talking about personal vulnerability, do you have economic security? Are you safe in your family? Is there violence in your community or in your home that will cause you to have some level of undue stress that makes you feel trapped, like things will never change, like you're stuck in a situation? Those things can also bring out depression. And I kind of went off on a tangent, but I'm glad I remembered to go back there. So let's go back to what I'm sharing with you. So when we think about depression, and we're looking at depression from a broader scale as to whether or not we currently are experiencing it, please know that it is very common that we've experienced it at some point in our life. The key to understand the depression that we may or may not have experienced is this. Depression comes in gradients, right? It comes in gradients. So we know that it is relatively mild based on how the symptomologies we experience. It still has the same reaction that we talked about the other day, that these mood changes, these physiological changes that we're experiencing related to depression, we recognize that they actually come into play. We recognize that they actually come into play because of a specific event happening in our life. But it's mild if this event that we've experienced can kind of clear itself up in about a few days, maybe 10, 13 days, something like that. It's considered moderate when you're experiencing a few more symptomologies than a couple of the ones that I shared with you early on. And that it's lasting a little bit longer than that. So you got a few more symptomologies, maybe 3 or 4, and it's lasting. And I'm paraphrasing, it could be a little bit different. I have my notes here, but I'm doing it off my head. It could be, for maybe 14 days, right? And then we know that our depressive state is more severe when it is lasting 15 days or more, and you got 5 or more of the symptomologies that we went over the other day. So let's talk about them really briefly again, just to get us in the mindset of what the symptomology for depression look like. So we know that we are talking about having a depressed mood most of the time, nearly every day, indicated by feelings of sadness, emptiness, hopelessness. And to be clear, I want to let you know, I don't want to bring you any information that is not backed up by the science for which I have studied, and I know I like to read things specifically, even if I stumble over it as I'm reading it. The goal is to let you know that I did not make it up. And here's my handy dandy book here. It is our Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5. I've been talking to you about it. Now you can see that I own it, and it's pretty worn if you look at the sides. I'm using this thing. So anyway, back to the point. Focus. Okay. So this depressive mood that is accompanied by these feelings of sadness and these feelings of emptiness and hopelessness. But another thing is, we talked about this yesterday, this markedly diminished interest and pleasure of all things most of the time, right? The other day I thought it was just one area, and to be realistically, you might notice it in one area, and then it will slowly go into all areas. It doesn't have to be all at one time, but knowing that ultimately you start to lose pleasure in every space, right? Another thing is that there's this issue with weight. You can either gain weight or lose weight, which I need to really, talk to you about that a little more deeply. We are often, I said this to you the last time we spoke, we look at weight loss as, oh my God, a person is so depressed. But honey, weight gain could also be connected to depression. And we often don't think about that. We're like, oh, if I'm feeding myself, I feel good. No. What are you eating? Are the things that you're eating opposite of what your dietary requirements should be? And if you eating them persist, would your life be challenged? And are you so in a mood that you don't even care about that aspect? You just want to just drown yourself in eating. These are symptoms of depression, my brother and my sister. And I want you to know, I'm not projecting. I've been there. Friends and family, listen, can I tell you? Okay, let's move on. Here's something else that's important. Insomnia, where you cannot sleep, or hypersomnia, you're sleeping too much. And this is every day. All signs of depression. Feeling worthless, feeling excessive or inappropriate guilt. Oh man. Oh yes. Diminished ability to think or concentrate. Indecisive nearly every day. And then these recurring thoughts of death. These are like just the common things that we'll experience. Another thing is being, irritable, agitated, constantly moving, or moving extremely slow. Just no energy all the time. Yeah. And this is so severe that it's observable by others. So if you're hearing these things and you meet 2, 3, or 5, of the symptomologies that I've shared with you, you could potentially be dealing with depression. And what I would want to ask you as a strategy to kind of help you tonight would be, friend, I need you to ask yourself, how long have you been feeling this way? Is it longer than 2 weeks? Do you have more than 3 symptoms? At least 5 or more of the 8? Are you feeling other mental health challenges like anxiety and other things? Is this new because of some level of stress? These are the things you need to think about when it comes to depression. And if you are feeling very, very concerned about what I'm sharing with you today, because you're noticing that these symptomologies are what you're noticing in a family member or what you're experiencing yourself, I ask you, my friend, my brother, and my sister, please go get the help you need. Friends, I know it's COVID-19, but there are so many online opportunities now for you to be able to do telehealth, and it is wonderful. It is wonderful, 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 because you don't have to leave your home. You can be in a safe space and get the support you need. They will talk to you through your computer, through your cell phone. You don't have to show your face if you want. They're out there. You can just put a quick Google search of online therapeutic services 2022, and a bunch of them will come up. I don't want to recommend a specific service, though I know several, because I want you to have the opportunity to choose. But if you have experienced depression before, And you can link it back to these other, experiences that I talked about. Something's going on environmentally for you. Something's going on personally for you. Be encouraged. Know that you're not alone. And if you're no longer and you're coming out of that depressed state, listen, just do what you need to do in order to get yourself to a place of peace and to stay grounded so that when uncertain circumstances come to you again, you will be prepared for them. And again, I want to say this. I feel like I'm repeating it 100 times, but I don't care. I'm going to say it to you because I care about you, my brother and my sister. Do not let anyone make you feel bad. Do not let people make you feel like you're overly emotional, that your feelings do not matter. If you're going through something, your feelings are valid. The reason why you're going to go get some professional support in this area is because you can't manage it on your own. And your life, work, and productivity is being hindered because of what's happening for you. Do not feel like you have that you are alone, or that you're foolish, or that you're crazy because this is going on. No. Your body, your mind, your nervous system is telling you something is going on for you in your emotional self, or even your medication that you've been taking is telling you, giving you an alert that something isn't going right in your body, and your physician needs to help you. But whatever the case may be, I want to validate your feelings in this moment, friend, my family. If you're feeling this way, it's okay to own the fact that you're not well. You're not alone. Find support. If you don't have insurance, if you don't have the money to be able to go to an online service provider, find you a community of faith. Find you a community organization that's offering free support in your area. If you live in a major city, they're there. If you live in a smaller town, you could typically find pastoral counseling at a church. Whatever you do, get the support that you need. There are hotlines that are available. Whatever you need to do, get the support that you need. But know that you're not the only one going through it. I'm going to give you a little bit of disclosure, and then I'm going to close up today. So I have actually been working towards my educational goals for, the last 13 or 14 years. And as I shared in one of my, maybe the second or third discussion that we've ever had on this channel, I talked about my journey, right, of doing everything a little bit differently, because I ended up leaving school, trying to figure things out, and going to school later and having to do it with children and a family, a husband, all the things, right? And one of the greatest challenges of that journey is, as soon as I entered into my doctoral degree, I gained in the first year 80 pounds. Yep, you heard it. And I would have never recognized what was going on for me. There was some anxiety there. There were moments of depression because I felt overwhelmed. But again, remember me, the woman of faith, huh? Always talking that talk. And look at how depression was able to creep in. And I've done various things. I ate plant-based for a year, so I lost a few pounds there. And, I've worked out a little bit here or there, but I'm still in the middle of the trenches of this experience. And if you've never gone through a doctoral degree, and if you know someone that did or that is currently doing, hug them. Because it is a life-changing event that's magnanimous, and also it can be traumatizing at the same time. And so there's the great thing about being a person of faith is that every time I go into these spaces, it would be relatively mild, because within a couple days, I'm out of it and into something else. But seasons of in and out of these ups and downs and ebbs and flows of life pack weight on, honey. You cannot eat cake all the time. Even vegan cake. I was a vegan in 2020, and baby, she ate vegan cake. I didn't get fat though off vegan cake. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is that depression can look so different, and it doesn't have to be every single day, all the time, for 6 months that you are going through a depressive moment or a state. It could literally be 2 months, and then you snap out of it, and then you're good, and then you have another trauma or issue, a situation you don't expect, and it'll creep in when you're unaware. This is why I believe strongly, if you change your mind, you can change your life. Because you can be alert and aware of it when it comes on, to fight it off more quickly when you are, conscious of how you manage stress. And that's why we're a community. So many of us work 80 hours a week. We don't have time to go to the doctor. Some of us are uncomfortable with being in public settings because of what's going on. Some of us don't have the insurance. But here we are, a community where I can provide you resources and send you to places to get the support you need. And then also validate you at the same time. Yep. So again, listen. You are not alone. I am here with you. This, my friends, is a safe place. I know it's been difficult, but we're going to get through this journey together. And listen, my friend, my brother, and my sister, if you need the help, don't be ashamed to get the help. Help is available for you because your life has purpose. And I know you probably are asking, Taneshia girl, where's my strategies for dealing with this? I think I'm going through it. I know. We'll talk about them on Friday. Okay? Next time we meet. But I wanted to just give you this information to let you know a little bit more about how depression works. Okay? All right? If you enjoyed the content on this channel today and all the other days, can y'all do me a favor? Please like, please comment, please share. Share with people who might need the same support, who might need the same strategies, right? Thank you. Listen, until next time, be encouraged, my friend. You are not alone. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Until next time, blessings to you, my friend. Just in case you weren't sure.